Ganesh, thank you very much for making time for this conversation. I really, really appreciate it. I know you have a very, very busy schedule. You lead a very important part of Airtel. So I'm truly humbled by you agreeing to speak with me. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks,
Sanchit, for doing this.
No, thank you. So Ganesh, I've been following personally Airtel's journey in digital and cloud specifically over the last decade. And, while the company has come a long way in its approach to cloud and the ability to deliver outcomes for clients, but, the cloud journey has taken many avatars over the years. So when you started, can you walk me through and with the audience, what you inherited in terms of, let's say, the cloud strategy, the product roadmap, and more importantly, can you shed some light as to what were the objectives laid out before you by the board? Was it simply to become the leader in end-to-end cloud, or was it something very specific in terms of asks?
Yeah, I think, if you look at our business, which is the Airtel business today, and if you look at we have three parts to the business. There is a global business, and then there is this enterprise business, which is the top 2,000 customers in India. And then the whole SMB business. So every business in India in some form or fashion is a customer of Airtel.
Right.
And I think in the last 2 years, what COVID has taught us is that there are two distinct trends we are seeing in these businesses. One, their need to manage things remotely, managing employees remotely, managing assets remotely, manage their computing remotely. And third is to make sure that they're constant touch with their customers. And if you look at both of these things, one is leading to a lot of demand for connectivity, more reliable connectivity, computing, which is not definitely on-premise. The other one, which is constant need for communication with the customers, is leading to more and more demand for various channels of communicating with the customer. So let me give you an example.
Please.
Even if a very traditional retailer who has been a brick and mortar retailer, we saw them that they were trying to use this retail showrooms for reaching out to customers virtually. Let's say that's a jewelry storeroom. They were using the staff of the store to connect with the more loyal customers on a phone call, on an email, on a WhatsApp to say, look, we've got some new things. Can I show it to you? You can shop from the comfort of the house.
True.
And then to support that, you need computing, you need a CRM, you need contact center. All of that also went outside the premises because there was no way for them to get into the premises.
Right.
So our thinking is that if you look at our customers' ICT needs, the two biggest incremental spend area which we can address is cloud computing. Other one is CPaaS. And CPaaS, I'm defining it broadly to include everything around cloud communication platform as a service, right? Whether it is email, SMS, WhatsApp, and all of that. So our interest is how do we serve our customers in these what we call core adjacent areas, which is cloud and CPaaS. And that has been the mandate for us to say, look, how can we serve our customers in these two broad areas?
And if please carry on. No, please carry on.
Yeah. No, then we looked at and said, look, what is our right to win in this space? Why would customers want to come to a telco for cloud? An important question, right? I mean, when they want to move to cloud, there are various choices they could make. Why would they trust Airtel, even though they're trusting Airtel for their connectivity, their few other things? We have a pretty good data center business.
Right.
So we wanted to say, look, why would a customer want a telco for cloud? And then we will focus this conversation today on cloud. CPaaS we can set aside for some other day. The cloud is what. Then we looked at what is our strength. And we have three important strengths. One, we have a phenomenal data center infrastructure.
Yeah.
We have 8 metro data centers and growing in number as well as in size. We will have 120 edge data centers, again growing in size and importance with the impending launch of 5G. And we have a phenomenal connectivity across various different cities. We have all forms of connectivity, 2G, 3G, 4G, potentially 5G, and a broadband. Then the third important strength we have is our mobile coverage.
That's true.
And today, we have pretty big share of mobility market. We are growing consistently, close to 40%, whether you numbers or revenue, whichever way you look at it. I think these are the strengths. So we wanted to play from our strengths. That is where our journey is. So I think our mandate from the board is how do we serve these two important areas of growing customer needs? And to serve that, how do we look at our right to win? And our right to win these three areas. And I want to, as we talk more, I'll tell you where our thinking has evolved in these areas.
No, excellent. I think the fact is that the Airtel's install base, both from a user perspective and from the enterprise perspective, is so strong that I think the journey thereon just becomes easy, right? So I understand that. But before we move on to more detailed questions, what I'd love to, you made a point about COVID, and like every organization, I'm sure there was some level of unpreparedness to sort of tackle COVID. Can you tell me, let's say, how did sort of Airtel eat its own dog food from a cloud perspective to be able to, let's say, launch new services and through the COVID period? Because ultimately, the proof of the pudding is, I think, at the scale at what Airtel operates itself, I think eating its own dog food sort of makes a lot of sense from a story perspective.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at my other hat as an enterprise CEO, I need to sell to CIOs who are pretty much like Pradeep, who is my CIO of Airtel, right? So, I need to, if I could convince Pradeep why he should run Airtel Cloud on Airtel, then I could be able to convince every other CEO. So what I learned, and I think it's an important learning, is that if you look at the cloud consumption of a big company like Airtel, there is one part of the consumption which is completely SaaS based, whether it is Microsoft 365, whether it is any CRM software, where we are consuming that as a SaaS software, whatever cloud it comes with, right? That is one big consumption model. Then if you look at the rest of the compute needs, there is going to be certain applications which you have launched, let's say Wink or Airtel IQ, which are digital in nature, which is going to need some special services the hyperscalers offer. So we want to put them on hyperscalers, right? So that's the second decision criteria on the compute infrastructure. Then the rest of the core applications runs on 80% our own private cloud.
Okay.
And the remainder 20% we use hyperscalers. And we have all the hyperscalers. Okay. So if I look at a CIO of a big company and who has to continuously optimize the computing cost, but offer the same time, offer flexibility for growth, like our Airtel IQ platform has grown considerably, our Wing platform is growing considerably. Right. So to offer that kind of growth, it is truly a multi-cloud approach. It's truly, that is what the biggest future is going to be. So it is going to be SaaS, consumed as SaaS, hyperscalers consumed for specialized services, and then remainder of the core workload, it will be 80% on-premise or off-premise, but private cloud, and then remainder is hyperscaler.
So that's how Pradeep uses his team.
That's how Pradeep is moving to that direction, right? Okay. And that is go ahead.
And is there, and in terms of, let's say, I'm sorry I'm deviating, but I'll come back to the more basic questions, but in terms of the architecture, flexibility, and talking about Pradeep specifically, Airtel's own consumption, sort of does his team also use an entire spectrum of technologies, right from proprietary to open source? Is that how flexible the cloud has been architected?
Your point about the underlying technology is very valid. Today, they have all types of virtualization technologies in their mix. Okay. They use VMware, some of it is open source. A lot of applications are moving to Kubernetes as a service. So there is whatever the application has been built, either it's a legacy, you've taken it over, or we bought a package and customized it. So, we have Oracle as a big environment as well. We've got Microsoft for our Microsoft 365. So it's truly, not only the hardware element is very varied, above which the whole virtualization layer is pretty varied as well. True. So the one important realization is that for us to manage this multi-cloud environment, we need a management layer. Call it, we are calling it fancifully Airtel Flex Cloud. It's a management layer which can give somebody like Pradeep a full array of resources to consume, whether it is public cloud hyperscalers, private cloud, or SaaS, and give all the time visibility to him on overall computing spend, how it is getting optimized. And for his developer community, a true marketplace to deploy their applications, right? And that is what excites me, because to me that looks like the direction every big organization is going to go towards.
It's very interesting you mentioned marketplace. I remember speaking to Airtel back in 2011 or 12 about a marketplace. There was the same time when SaaS was brand new, and Google and the others were all tying up with Singtel and in Australia and also in India, and there was an attempt at marketplace. But I think we've come a long way, and I think probably right now is the right time to sort of go towards the marketplace. But I'll come back. I want to address something very basic first. It's a question I get very often from our CXO, CIO clients about Airtel. So I want to be their voice with you and sort of ask you this question: is that how is the cloud business organized at Airtel? Because there's oftentimes a confusion as to what does Nextra do, what does Airtel Business do, how do they complement each other, how is it organized from a team, sales, support perspective. So I think let's get that out of the door first, and then let's go to bare metal a little bit.
So that's actually a very important question. I want to make it easier for our customers to deal with us. See, Airtel is organized in two dimensions. One is the customer segment dimension, which is our primary organization structure. Right. It is global customer, followed by enterprise customer, followed by SMB mid-market customer, and then SB customer, and then government. So there is a definite organizational alignment. As I am the CEO for the enterprise business. There's CEOs for two other businesses. All of us roll into Airtel Business, which is purely a customer-led organizational structure. Right. Clearly aligned by accounts, size of the accounts, and all that. Makes sense. Then we have product. Okay. Right. So core is one big product, connectivity. The second product is core new, where SDWAN, all of that comes in. Makes sense. Then cloud is a product. Okay. Cloud as a product owner, same way core as a product owner, core new as a product owner. I happen to double hat on both enterprise CEO and cloud CEO. Wonderful. Nextra is only a name for our colo business. Okay. Nextra is, you should imagine Nextra as another product entity, which is our data center business. Understood. Like security is another big product for us. IoT is another big product for us. Airtel IQ, which is a CPaaS, is another product. So you can imagine that we are organized ourselves as 8 product lines and 4 customer segments. Nextra is a little unique because it's a legal entity where we have ownership from Carlyle as well, which is actually public information. Yeah. So we want to make sure that we are treating it as an end-to-end entity by itself. But as far as our customers are concerned, we are the GTM, we are the fulfilling engine. Airtel has its own GTM on these 4 lines, and then the product lines are on top. So my own team, enterprise sales GTM, sells colo, data center, and cloud. Colo data center comes under the Nextra brand. Cloud comes under the Airtel Cloud brand.
So that leads me to my next question is that, and I'll come back to your GTM part because I really want to address that. But is there at some stage, if not currently, is there a thinking that there may well be a time where, let's say, Nextra directly does not have a presence or a strength, but Airtel does have some great products from, let's say, an IQ perspective? Would at some stage Airtel be looking at, or is currently already, let's say, hosting these products on, let's say, a hyperscaler or on a competitive infrastructure business, simply because, let's say, the customer may well have a relationship there already?
Yeah, the way we look at it is, And this is the way we're going to look at our cloud business as well. If you look at Nextra, right? Nextra is already a unicorn, public information valued pretty high. And for Nextra, Airtel is also one customer.
Right.
Our own data center requirements are fulfilled by that Nextra entity. Understood. As we fulfill other customers as well. And tomorrow, our cloud unit will also function like that. We will not only fulfill Airtel's cloud requirements, we'll also fulfill other cloud requirements as well. And for running this cloud, if I need a data center, I'll go to Nextra as the primary data center. But if I need to go to some other hyperscaler, that is also possible. I don't think we have hard and fast rule. So imagine these as individual product entities where they have their own freedom on pricing and offerings and stuff like that.
The reason I ask this is because modularity is a very critical ask in multi-cloud architectures, and vendor lock-in is quite the pain. I would, if I may call it that, because the customers worry about getting locked in with a single vendor across multiple layers. And the fact is that there are already, let's say, existing relationships, licensing, and all of that. So there may well be a time where, let's say, you may have to look at it. That's the reason I asked. So, but moving on very quickly, you mentioned go-to-market, and I think let's talk about, let's say, the cloud go-to-market, and how does that sort of, how are you differentiating that with, let's say, some of the hyperscalers and your competition in the market? Because ultimately, be it FSI clients, be it retail, be it healthcare, the pool of the clients is pretty much the same. So if you could talk about, let's say, some levers you are using to differentiate your go-to-market, be it on the vertical layer, be it on the org type, or let's say even packaging solutioning, that would really help, please.
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me first tell you what we are trying to build and offer, and then we can say how GTM comes with it. Yeah. Because I want to make sure that our thinking on what is the strength we are offering in the market comes out very clearly. I started by saying that our fundamental belief is we need to serve in two important areas with our customer. One is cloud, the other one is CPaaS. And our strength to serve is based on three things: our data center, our connectivity, and our mobility side. And if I look at our customer base, which is coming to us, you're absolutely right. What we are seeing in the market is SMB customers are more and more consuming cloud as a SaaS. Yeah. They're not coming to PaaS or infrastructure services. They want to make it simple. They will buy SaaS or the 365, Google, SCM, all of that. They want to consume as SaaS, and that's a direction we are seeing. True. If you look at the mid-market customers, they have an option to go to hyperscaler first, simplify their business, at the same time worried about cost. And the big enterprises are truly going to be a multi-cloud environment of the future. So with that in mind, we have distinct two subcategories of our cloud offering. Let me talk about the present, and I'll talk about the future. Sure. The present one is we want to be able to go to an enterprise customer to say, look, we will help you optimize your overall cloud computing and give you flexibility. So with our data center in mind, we will be building what we are calling it as a developer cloud. Okay. Very similar to areas where people would want a no-frills VM storage to be provisioned, right, which could be used by either the mid-market company, a developer community, a starting startup. I mean, if you look at the market today, the infrastructure as a services market in India is about $2 billion business, out of which 15-20% is non-hyperscalers, and there is room for somebody to provide that setup. And with our data center and our connectivity, we can position that one. So that's one distinct offering. Second is for customers who have data localization sovereign requirements, who cannot operate in a public cloud market. Let's say that an M&D customer, a manufacturing distribution customer, would rather have their core applications running closer to their factory. Makes sense, yeah. in a Airtel data center in a private cloud format, or a government entity wants to run out of a sovereign cloud, again in a fully MATI compliant data center managed by a brand like Airtel, which is a TROI controlled entity, adherent to all the local regulations, or a bank who wants to make sure that their application is operating in a fully RBI compliant,
True.
we have what is called a Airtel private cloud offering. This is what we are building, again, using our data center and connectivity.
Perfect.
Then we have hyperscalers. We have partnership with AWS, we have partnership with Oracle. We would be able to offer both hyperscalers if people want to go directly to hyperscalers, or they want a truly hybrid cloud environment. We are building a cloud management portal, which we are calling it Airtel Flex Cloud. So our messaging to the market is, if you're an SMB customer, if you want to consume SaaS, we are building a SaaS marketplace where you can consume SaaS. If you're a mid-market customer, you truly want a low-cost public cloud, we have that. If you are an enterprise customer who wants a hybrid environment, we can give you that. So that is one side of our spectrum. We're calling it as Airtel Flex Cloud. The second subcategory is our edge. We are truly excited about our edge because with 120 edge data centers and close to 40% of mobility share in our business, we think we can add value to a customer. So we have already launched our Airtel CDN. Airtel CDN we already have our first customer. We will be going in a big way in the market. I'll tell you the difference of a telco CDN is that with the mobility share we have, our performance is truly differentiated in the market. We can give a better performance. And then we are actually going to talk about edge cloud as well. I'm going to hold my thought because that's an exciting part. But let me just stop here to make sure that our product architecture is two categories, two pillars: Airtel Flex Cloud and Edge Cloud. And Airtel Flex Cloud has got a developer cloud, a private cloud, a hybrid cloud, and a complete SaaS marketplace for SMBs to consume SaaS.
And I'm sure at some stage the Flex Cloud and the Edge Cloud will start bleeding into each other as well as use cases mature. Because developers just can't be developing just for the private, and will also start developing for edge and IoT and 5G specific environments. So I'm sure that's going to be an area that you look at it as well. But you mentioned two things: developer cloud, and you mentioned data residency. So I want to first talk about data residency restrictions, because I've been part of many deals in the last 12 months where it has really been a showstopper in terms of business from a data hosting perspective. Can you talk about how, let's say, some of these new restrictions have shaped your strategy? More importantly, how are you training and how is your sales team to use this as an agenda to fuel growth? Are there certain types of workloads you are targeting first than the others? If you could give a sense, please.
So on the specific to data residency side, we have two distinct initiatives going on. One is, we know that in the market, if you exclude the top financial institutions, there are second tier and third tier financial institutions which are going digital in a big way. Let's take cooperative banks, for example. They have a mandate to get digitized in a big way. And with the COVID, it's only accelerating, right? So what we really would like to offer, and this very interesting model, is that we would offer as a banking software and connectivity and cloud, including the CPaaS requirement, which is ability to keep the customer notified on SMS and voice for one per branch price.
Okay.
So you divide the branch into small, medium, large, and for large, you get certain X price per month, medium X price per month, and everything is there.
So let me get that right. It's like a pre-packaged solution, bottoms up, infrastructure tied, so optimized for that specific workload. Is that what you're saying?
So think of a cooperative bank workload, core banking application. The minimal thing you need to run a cooperative branch, fully contained in a box, given it to a customer, including connectivity from the branch. And CPaaS, you have 10,000 customers in a cooperative branch. You want SMS to keep them notified, certain number of. We can even convert that into a per customer price.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's great flexibility. Okay.
So that is the model we are going after in terms of solving one specific data residency localization, which is the banking side. Excellent. The second one is state governments.
Can I ask you a question before you go to your second point? And you can refuse to answer this question. Is that a lot of these cooperative banks have ended up becoming the backup provider of choice for other banks nearby. So especially down south, you're seeing that a lot of cooperative banks already have excessive data center capacity, and they have sort of become these providers for larger banks for backup and recovery. Now, how does Airtel fit into that? Because there's already excess capacity right there at cooperatives, right?
I don't know whether our play is an infrastructure play. Our play, as you rightly say, as I explained, is a full package for a private software.
Okay.
Now, if you are sitting on excess capacity, you trade it with the bank, that's a different story. But to run that cooperative branch, you still need a hardware, you still need a ISV or a software, you still need the CPaaS element, because going digital doesn't mean that you just have a core banking software, which also needs you to communicate to the customer when the transaction happened. And that is where Airtel comes in, right?
That's when the SMS channel and the backbone.
SMS channel, the WhatsApp channel, the voice channel comes in, right? There's some very interesting things about CPaaS that will take a full separate session, which we are working on, which I think will be very useful for the banking side.
Sorry, so you were saying the second thing from your side.
Yeah, the second thing is the government side, right? We are beginning to see, two distinct trends emerge on the government side. One is they would love to create a cloud environment leveraging their existing infrastructure. A lot of these state governments have big data centers. They have invested in hardware. They're not running a cloud. Their applications are all disjointed, right? So a lot of state governments are progressively taking an approach that we will cloudify the whole thing, run the infrastructure, and various departments can run their software on that cloud. So they themselves want to provide that element, and they want somebody like Airtel to come and run it. Because it's just not about data center, it's about connectivity. You want to make sure that when people move to cloud, they're accessing it not through a data center, but they're accessing from different government offices. There is local breakout. They're using internet to connect to cloud as opposed to coming through a data center. The connectivity and network design is a very different challenge when you have application going to cloud. So we are helping state and local governments to do it on premise if they want on premise. But there is a lot of governments today which are also flexible to say, I don't mind moving it off premise because my data center is either old, my hardware is out of life. Why don't I start afresh? But I can't go to a hyperscaler. We need a sovereign cloud. We need somebody who's an Airtel brand, like an Indian brand, who can manage it. And we have been serving all these state and local governments anyway. We provide connectivity anyway. So you can imagine that we are just having connectivity. We get that cloud set up in our extra data center, if you will. I talked to you about that. Then that becomes our data center layer. And then we put our cloud layer on top of it. And we have the flex cloud model, again, on top of all of this, help them manage. That's another big data localization push we are doing.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. That's a great flavor, and I'm sure with the course of time we'll come up with more use cases. But the other point you made, which is a very interesting point, is the developer cloud. And I have my own observations in terms of developer cloud. While it's a necessary evil you ought to have, but how does a company like Airtel, which hasn't really appealed to the developer community in the past, take the story, especially to cloud native developers who necessarily don't want to deal with traditional vendors at all? They in fact have an averse attitude to working with the big boys in the game because they think you're not agile, etc., etc. So how do you institutionalize this relationship with DevOps and the developers at large? If you could give me a sense, please.
Yeah, no, what we're going to do is to partner. And I'll tell you why that makes a big difference. Because again, going back to our strength, we have data center and connectivity. You want a developer cloud, which is easy for a developer to provision. They're not going to, work with 1 month, 1 year contract. They want to just fire up a VM, test things out, fire out. So you need a solid platform to do it. While today I'm not able to reveal it, hopefully we'll be able to announce, we are actually bringing a global player to India.
Okay.
Right. So we will be helping them to launch it in India in a big way. What is it in for them? We give them data center, we give them connectivity. In some cases, we'll also put the hardware layer. Because with our strength, we can buy hardware as efficiently as anybody else.
Right.
But they bring the platform on top.
Excellent.
And this is a brand which is trusted by developers across the globe. So there is this, affinity towards it. But what is very interesting is, again, I want to go back to the customer requirements. See, as video, I'll take one example. As video become more and more critical, there are so many VMs today commissioned on a per day, per week basis, where somebody has a video editing for a movie or a TV serial. There are so many of them in the country. They need workstation as a service.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why Apple is a M1 chips on the cloud is a big ask. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, who's going to give them that? With connectivity? Because it's just not about that workstation as a service in the cloud. They also need reliable connectivity with as efficient egress cost as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this combination of a global developer cloud platform, which is easy to use, trusted by the developer community, comes with its references, brought to India by a brand like Airtel, which can complement it with a strong connectivity offering. That's what we're excited about.
But I must share something, while all of that is great, I think that one of the things that even the large boys in the game, hyperscalers, are missing is that I would say the transparency in pricing and licensing, because we've all heard of horror stories of how people forget to sort of switch off the VMs that have been spinned off, and at the end of the month they get a large cloud bill of 60,000 US, 70,000 US, because they forgot to switch off a VM, right? We've all heard of that horror stories. And imagine being a young company, young startup, fresh developers. I think if you can take away that pain from developer community, I think they will all flock to you in a very big way. Nonetheless, moving on, there's a very famous African saying that goes, "It takes a village to raise a child." Now, I believe the same is true for cloud engagements, and you've done a fantastic job so far, Ganesh, to sort of talked about the relationship with hyperscalers and all of that. But since we're talking developers, I'm very keen to know your engagement and relationships with key ISVs, and I'll tell you where I'm coming from. As you said yourself, the consumption is happening a lot more on the SaaS layer. And people really don't want to talk about infrastructure anymore because that's a pain that they want you to handle. And that's exactly why they hire you. So talk about certain relationships and partnerships that are probably already active, or probably in the works, because ultimately the consumption at the application layer is the most critical success factor in this journey, right?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Without partnerships, we won't be able to build this cloud business. And I'll tell you in each of this product area, what partnerships we have built. Let us look at the ones we have already announced in the market, right? If you look at the edge side of the story, the CDN is a partnership with Quilt. So the data center is ours, the mobility is ours, the edge data center is ours, hardware is, whichever providers have built the hardware, but the software we have brought is Quilt. So there's a key partnership there. Quilt is a known global brand now in the CDN space. They have big global customers. So again, we're bringing them to India. If you look at the edge cloud also, we will be partnering with a big brand, global brand, to bring an edge cloud infrastructure, again, with that software layer coming from a global brand, right? So we'll announce that pretty soon. And the third layer, we will be also announcing an Airtel 5G Edge, which is basically 5G private network and edge compute together in a box, again, with a big partner. So that's on the edge side. If you look at the Airtel Flex Cloud side, which I mentioned, the SaaS marketplace is to enable our SB customers, small business customers, to buy SaaS. We will be bringing a global platform as a partner to launch it in India, which will again launch in September. The developer cloud I mentioned, we are bringing a global brand to India, right? If you look at the private cloud offerings, that we are building ourselves, but again with strong virtualization partners, which we already are big partners. We're using them in our own Airtel cloud. That we'll be bringing that as well. And hyperscalers, our thing is 40% of compute today is hyperscalers in India, and it's growing. We have partnership with all the hyperscalers. AWS, we have partnership. We have our partnership with Oracle. Our partnership with Google. So we have partnership with 3. So if you look at our whole cloud strategy, our strength is data center and connectivity. For everything else, we are bringing partners. It's truly an African village, if you will.
It reminds me of a report that we wrote. I'll take a minute of your time. When Jio was getting a lot of investments from Global, I wrote this, me and my team wrote this entire report, and we said, Jio is a very different business model to Airtel. Actually, they're very different, right? Jio is all in, so they want to sort of acquire everybody, have everything in-house, and Airtel is all about partner-led approach. Even right from the consumer side to the business side, we're clearly noticing that the Airtel strategy is very partner-oriented, and that way it's a brilliant thing. But with that comes its own set of challenges because you're hinging your success on the commitment that the partner is giving to you. And probably at some stage, there's always going to be exclusivity. There's always going to be things as to how sometimes you can't access best of breed partners simply because you're already in the bed with another. Now, how does, let's say, Airtel open up its architecture to certain instances like these where there may be partners you've not onboarded currently, let's say on the database layer? I'll give you an example. For example, Redis as an open source database is extremely popular. Now, hypothetically, let's say if there was a database that you don't have a new architecture, how do you address that? Because ultimately, the developer really wants that from you.
So, if you look at our approach to partnership, we have not believed in exclusivity enforced by a contract.
Okay.
We believe that is not the right model. People should believe that going with Airtel is beneficial, and we should feel the other way about as well.
Right.
Now, if I am already successful with Airtel, let us take a CDN example, right? If I have partnered with Airtel and Airtel is bringing me revenue, they have the biggest network, they can offer my customer, if the partner looks at it as a common customer, that the performance of the CDN platform is going to be good because they go with Airtel. That is the exclusivity I can bank on, as opposed to putting an exclusivity by contract and saying we'll go only with you, we'll go only with that. The same approach we're taking to a lot of these partnerships as well, where we believe that it has to be mutually beneficial partnership for us to be exclusive, right? I don't think exclusive by contract really works. So I don't know about the specific example you mentioned because I'm technically not intelligent to say about that. But I just want to make sure that our approach is that if this marriage of two people really adds value to the customer, I think this partnership will stay. And I think that's an approach you're taking.
Makes sense. So, you spoke about marketplace, and it's the second time in the conversation we brought up marketplace. So again, I'm going to ask you a little tricky question. Again, you can dodge it, avoid it, refuse to answer it. But, look, the marketplace model is a very slippery slope. It's 20 cents on a dollar from a revenue cut perspective for the telco. That's always been so, right? What has changed? I know the openness of SMBs to consume SaaS has increased. But from a business modeling perspective internally, how do you how do you make a money on a 20 cents on a dollar sort of a contract where, because I'm sure just license sale doesn't interest you at all.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. There are two parts to this business. One is, let's take our SMB customer base, right? Today, we have the ability to collect money every month from 1 lakh of these customers, give or take, right? That's a very unique strength. I mean, how many businesses in India can claim that we have a subscription model with that many small businesses in India on a very consistent basis? Now, if I go to a customer and say, I'm giving you broadband and I'm giving you, mobility for a small 40, but I can also give you a collaboration software on top of it. I can give you a productivity software on top of it, and you pay it as one bill. It makes it a very easy conversation for us to have. Now, margins may not be as big as our own product, but the effort to make that sale happen, I think has changed dramatically. You asked what has changed. We have this portal called Airtel Thanks for Business. You have Airtel Thanks for Consumer. Today, you can see how much of our business is going digital on the consumer side. We have similar effort underway on digitizing our SB business. Today, you ask, the SB sales guys, close to 100% of our payment is going online.
Yeah. Okay.
Close to 95% of ordering is going online.
Okay.
So if you think about this as 1 lakh to 10, big customer base of small business who have a digital experience to procure everything connectivity, everything broadband. I'm just adding on top of it a collaboration suite or or a productivity suite, the ability for that customer to buy it, provision it, manage it digitally, along with my own sales team effort to sell it, is got much more simplified, right? We will be one of the very few SB businesses in India who has got direct touch points with all these customers. We have a direct salespeople, right? Now imagine these direct salespeople, they are enabled with a digital platform where all they have to do, go to a 100 people SB shop and say, look, here is your portal. You got everything you need. You got connectivity, you got broadband. So by the way, click here if you want to buy a collaboration software license from us, or you want to buy a productivity software license from us. And that is an easy sale. And 20 cents a dollar is one thing. But if I could make that with little incremental sales effort, that provides our ability to give the customer a full service.
I'm gonna interject. This is a very, very topic that's very close to my heart. And again, I've been speaking with Airtel about this prior to even when you started. So I know, look, I would say the pillars have been in the making and already existing with Airtel for the longest time, right? But I think certain key aspects have always been missing. And again, I'll look to you to sort of tell me what if there's been change and what change in terms of what quantum. In terms of true unified billing, and look, the OSS BSS engines have always had an issue in terms of true integration and true unified billing, both from a legality perspective, contractual perspective. How's that changed? Because unified billing is the critical success factor here. Is it true unified billing from that perspective, or are there still gaps in the works?
See, setting aside the regulatory constraints of what I can build together, what I have to build separately, our effort is to truly do full digital billing where the customer can see the invoice online and pay online. I think we have succeeded in that effort. If you look at our SB business, all invoices can be seen online and paid online. Now, I think what has changed is two things. One, our OSS BSS layer, we've got a new system which has gone in, which has made all of this integration much more possible. And truly our digital efforts is making this easy for consumers to look at their bills and pay. So they're not getting paper bills, 3 bills, 4 bills. They're getting, even if they're getting 2 different bills, they're getting it online and they can pay it. And they can set up online payment and it's easy for them. I think that's the direction we're on.
Right. Okay. So the second thing I wanted to speak to you about support. Again, while someone like Airtel has an army of L0 in-house, which sort of it's a great complement to your SB business and the marketplace. But my question is more towards the fact that how and what sort of investment are you making to, one, train or retrain your L0 support, which is in-house in terms of call center or maybe FAQs online, to be able to solve simple problems that, let's say, small businesses and mid-market businesses will have when they buy these applications from you. One is that. The second part of that question is that the moment you go beyond L0, are you sort of going to be pre-packaging L1, L2 support? Is it going to be ticket-based? How are you going to work that? Is it going to be outsourced to another company? Because again, L0 is easy to manage, but L1 and L2s are the one that really cause the most pain for any company, right? So how is the support going to be structured and managed? What are the investments in that?
So a very, very important capability for us to build.
Yeah.
Right. If you look at it, our traditional support has been a NOC-driven connectivity support, which is automated in a lot of ways, right? I mean, I know a link going down before anybody knows it because our NOC is managing it proactively, checking for packet loss and all that. When it comes to this side of it, which is infrastructure and cloud, that is not the same support I can provide. So I need to build 3 layers of capability. One is what you call L0, L1 support. Let's say I want to develop the CDN we have launched. I can manage the first level of support, and then we have got back-to-back arrangement with the partner, like Quilt. If you want to launch a developer cloud, we will handle the level 0 support, but the ticketing system will work with the partner. So there is a L0, let's call it keeping the lights on support. Right?
Sure.
So second layer of service I need to build is a managed services layer, where you asked an important question. Who is going to help the developer, the startup, to constantly watch out for switching off and switching on the VMs when they don't need it, so they're optimized on the spend. So that's a layer we are going to build or acquire. And we're also, constantly looking at acquisition in that space. The third layer is a migration app modernization layer. To some extent, we will build it, and to some extent, we'll partner, because we're not going to repeat an SI function within Airtel.
Doesn't
But
make sense,
at the same time, I need to be able to have at least a small team of people who can be talking to customers intelligently about their cloud needs.
True.
More importantly, network and security design. What I am seeing today in the market is when people look at cloud, the CIOs are looking at the cloud, but the network has been traditionally operated by the admin team, by the operations team. But cloud brings a unique set of challenges when it comes to network design. I mean, if a branch, a retail branch moving to cloud means their stores are not going to hit the data center to get to the cloud. They're going to have local breakout. They're going to use internet to access cloud, which brings own design elements of what bandwidth you need, what security you need. So we need a team. So we are building these 3 layers of services: the L0 services, the L1 or the managed services arm, and then there's a full consulting. This is an important investment area for Airtel, and you will see some big investment in this space in the next 6 months.
And I think it's a huge confidence builder for the customer as well. I think, because ultimately, I think we also need to look at it from a customer's perspective. For the last decade or so, they've been sort of oversold this entire cloud journey, the benefits, this entire outcome-based model. So I think there's a bit of a cynicism, if you may, with a lot of these customers who truly haven't received the value that they actually wanted to. I remember doing roadshows with small businesses in Surat, Varanasi, and all these places, and they have very basic questions. They have very simple problems, that they want to be able to see an Excel sheet and develop, let's say, a small report on their mobile phone, and it's not integrating, let's say, with another part of their application. Now, these are things that, let's say, Airtel can provide with the L0, but again, a huge internal change management has to go through. And, because we're speaking change management and you spoke about sales team, again, I'm going to throw a boomerang at you again, dodge it, or refuse to answer it. The sales team has always been a double-edged sword for Airtel. You've had a great line of sales guys who've built a rock-solid billion-dollar business for you from a connectivity perspective. But they come with their limitations. Ultimately, they're pipe sellers. They don't really understand application layer. They don't really understand integration, hybrid cloud. Probably Ganesh -1 and -2 will talk digital to great extremes, but you start going below that. And it's just not about Airtel. It's about any other company. Speaking digital, selling applications is a very complex task. So how are you sort of modernizing your sales force? How are you sort of equipping them to be able to sort of up the game, up the ante on the value conversation?
Very, very, very important question. I think, this is the biggest challenge any business which is changing the mix of its products is gone through, right? So luckily, I have gone through this experience with Dell 15 years ago when we were a big desktop notebook company and we started selling servers and storage, right? I mean, we were a very successful client business. If you look at 2000, 2001, even in the enterprise space, we started our journey as a desktops and notebook, and then we migrated to servers and storage. And you had a team of people who were trained to sell desktops and notebooks. Now they've been asked to sell servers. So it was a different game, right? I mean, desktops and notebooks, you were selling to the admin team, and then servers and storage, you were selling to the CIO. Our position today is no different. We've been selling connectivity, broadband, MPLS, internet to a different persona within a company. Now you've been asked to sell cloud and security, is a different persona to the company. So there are 3 things we are doing. And all these 3 are important and they need to work. One is we want our core business to go completely digital. Okay. So if you are an enterprise customer, if you want to order a broadband or an MPLS or internet, it is as simple as coming to a website, checking feasibility, placing the order. And if you don't want to do it yourself, you have a small team of people who will again do it on Airtel Thanks for Business. By the end of this year, end of this fiscal year, we want 100% of what we call our run rate business go online. Okay. We have set up a portal for every customer with their own logo, with their own CAM, with their own SAM. So if you are a ICICI Bank, SDFC Bank, Titan, you will come to your website, all your inventory is seen. If you want to upgrade, you can upgrade online. If you want to place an order for your MPLS, you can place an MPLS order. Renewals you can do. So I am taking away the effort of taking connectivity business away from my core sales team. It's going to go digital completely.
Excellent, excellent.
That's going to free up time for my CAMs to sell cloud and storage. It will also allow me to hire a different profile.
Yeah.
Today, the CAMs we are hiring are not from telecom. They are from ICT companies, the business managers, the one level above. You will see that we have a lot more people coming from ICT companies, consulting companies, than we have traditionally hired from telecom from each other. Excellent. That's a second fundamental change we are making. The third thing is, irrespective of whatever you do in these two, these products, whether it is cloud we are trying to sell or CPaaS we are trying to sell, is going to be facilitated by a specialist.
Okay.
We are significantly investing in the specialist organization for cloud.
Okay. Okay.
The ratio of cloud specialist to CAMs will be very different than what it is today.
That's good. Right?
And then also we are dividing my own enterprise accounts are divided into 3 sets of accounts. The top 50, which you're calling as growth accounts, the next 400, which you're calling as transformation accounts, and the remainder 1500 are strategic accounts. The CAM ratios are different. The support resources are different because we want to position different things in different space. So move the core business online, free up the time for CAMs to sell, cloud and security and CPaaS, and support them with the specialist support. The other thing we're doing is that we are stitching up GTM partnerships. So traditionally, we have been a direct company. We have not used, let's say, a consulting company who are advising big enterprises on digital transformation. We are saying, look, you do the consulting, you do the advisory, and if there is a need for a cloud player, please bring us. So it is a very targeted. We have given 10 accounts to one GTM. So we both ways, one, strengthen the direct channel and also try to see whether we can build GTM partnership with these big consultants.
Okay, excellent. No, that's very confidence building, because I tell you why. It is the one single factor that will that makes or breaks, I think, the cloud success. I think because I think the sellers who sell clouds have a consumption mindset. They work with a very different margin mindset compared to the others who have this entire 100K, 200K deal a structure in their head. For them, cloud at 7% margin is a no-go, right? So I think that's a very confidence building. But
one thing which is encouraging for me is that our sales team is reacting pretty well, right? Because they believe that for them to go up the value chain is selling these, because then their respect goes up, their persona they're dealing with on the other side goes up, their market value goes up. So
does the annual payouts also increase, Ganesh?
Annual payouts also increase.
Anyway, so switching gears, let's talk a little bit more about, you mentioned SD-WAN a few times, and in the last 1 year, what we've seen is that there's been an increase in flux of CIO inquiries coming in on SD-WAN. The mix and use of bandwidth types is such a big topic today. I'd love to know more about Airtel's approach to SD-WAN, because again, ensuring exceptional application QoE is a very, very important success metric. How are you approaching this? Give us a sense.
Yeah. We believe SD-WAN is not about the box, it's about the network. That is our fundamental belief in our approach to SD-WAN business. We think that a CIO moving to SD-WAN is not doing it to optimize network cost like Western markets, because in the India context, the cost difference between MPLS and internet is not that big.
Yeah.
In the Western context, SD-WAN is positioned as, you can go to complete internet, both lines could be internet. So you'll save a lot of money. So buy this hardware and put a lot of capex. We are saying no, the role of SD-WAN in the Indian context is 3 things. One, make sure that your network uptime is you get full visibility.
Yeah.
Second, you are able to manage bandwidth more. You can use primary and secondary together, right? Third is, and manage their application performance, right? That's the second bucket.
Yeah.
Third is you have central manageability, which you didn't have before. Sure. Now we are approaching SD-WAN as a fully managed service from Airtel, where you're saying you take Airtel links or anybody else's links, we will manage it along with SD-WAN. And we are, we are disaggregating that hardware layer from the link layer and say, look, hardware could be anybody's. And we have invested in a company called Level. You probably have seen our investment. Yeah. So we think that, in the future, that becomes a default model. In fact, our ambition is that every link Airtel gives should be an SD-WAN enabled link.
Excellent.
Right. If that happens, then my customers' uptime is better. Our links performance are better. Our application performance is better. Tomorrow their manageability is better. So my quality of service goes up. Our quality of service is network. So for me, SD-WAN is a great way to improve the quality of service, reduce branch downtime for a bank, a bank or a retailer. I mean, you will be amazed. We just won an SD-WAN for a food dining company.
Okay, interesting.
It's like a bunch of restaurants in South, 100 South. They want to go to SD-WAN. So imagine that is because the digital initiative for them is so critical. The branches are fully digitized. They have video surveillance. They have digital ordering. It's a big known brand. I won't be able to say who they are, but it's a private equity funded. But that's the kind of companies who are progressively moving to SD-WAN, not as a box, but as a way to make sure that that experience for that store manager and the customer inside that store is good. The Wi-Fi is working properly. That's what we're doing with SD-WAN. That is why the investment you're seeing is not into hardware, but bringing hardware as an element of giving network as a service. And you will see this network as a service as a big push from us.
It makes sense because it is the sort of the underlying need to build a great cloud to deliver that application, right? Now,
if you're a retailer, if you're a brand, you can put whatever great applications on cloud, but if your branch is not able to access that cloud, there's no. That is where SD-WAN comes in very, very important.
So tell me, you've really piqued my interest on one thing, I have to be honest. When you mentioned hardware a few times. Now, in my humble opinion, it would make sense for Airtel to have, let's say, recommended optimized hardware, because you're going to be launching Edge in a Box and SD-WAN and there's CDM. There's so much happening. So do you have, let's say, a concerted strategy around, let's say, recommended optimized hardware from certain OEMs as part of Airtel's cloud outreach?
Yeah, we work with most of the OEMs, whether it is Dell, HP, Cisco. We also work with chip manufacturers, Intel, other players in the market. And I think as Edge proliferates, you will see that there is not only an effort to create standards for Edge Cloud from a hardware perspective, even a global standard for telco Edge clouds, right? So if you are an Edge application, you are roaming around, you should be able to use a game or a metaverse application in the future, whether you're in Delhi or in Denmark. So that means that your Edge Cloud should be built on open standards, solid hardware, API and all that. That's what we're working towards. We're in the early stages. I won't say that at this point of time we have it. But those conversations are on. Yeah,
because I think it's again for the lack of the better of a term, but it's a very critical success factor for many sort of use cases where a traditional hyperscaler doesn't really work, and they need a on-premise architecture. Now, and I know in the interest of time, we've already spoken. It doesn't seem 50 more minutes, but in the interest of time, before we sort of part ways, but I'd love to sort of ask you a few questions, please. One is the kind of investments and focus you're going to be putting on the Edge Cloud with the intersection of 5G and a private 5G network, because I'm sure there are going to be some far-flung warehouses, manufacturing setups that can gain tremendously out of this Edge in a Box and a 5G intersection. Give us a sense of what's the preparedness, what's the kind of use cases you're preparing to outreach to customers.
You've already seen the 5G use cases we have announced in the markets. For example, we have launched a visual inspection use case with a big manufacturing company that shows the power of bandwidth which 5G brings, right? Because if a part is coming in the assembly line, and that part is defective, 5G allows you to quickly check that part, whether it is fitting the quality, take it out. And that we have demonstrated. We have demonstrated the ability to update the software in cars, 10 to 20 cars at a time, as opposed to today's one car by the time. So that's second use case we have demonstrated. We have demonstrated the power of slicing the network to provide a slice of a network to connect all the ambulances and hospitals. That also we have demonstrated. I think 5G is, in a way, is a technology which is going to bring so many new solutions to problems we don't even know that we could solve today. Right? And that is what, I mean, if anybody has if anybody says we have figured out this much opportunity for 5G problems to solve, I think it's very early in that stage, right? We know that with 5G, there are million square devices it can support in a square kilometer, million devices in a square kilometer. The city of Mumbai is about 80,000 people in a square kilometer. So the rest of it is all going to be devices, which means the devices are going to emit a lot of data, whether they're drones, they are wearable healthcare devices, connected cars. All of them is going to need computing closer to the devices. All of them is going to need a stable, reliable 5G network to connect. And all of them are going to need a central cloud to store and manage data, whether it's video environments. So what we are trying to build and get ready ahead of time is the infrastructure.
Excellent. Okay. And, since there will be so many customer journeys, there's going to be so much variation and variety. If you were to, let's say, give me 3 to 5 customer journeys where you think the real monies will trickle in for Airtel, or let's say where you really have a right to win. I really like the word term, by the way, right to win. So let's say, what are these 3 to 5 customer journeys? And the reason I ask this is because many CIOs, CTOs, and who will be watching this video, how do they relate to an Airtel Cloud? What is their typical starting point? Let's say if they're not an Airtel customer, or let's say they're only a network customer. What's the natural starting point that you think for some of these customers?
Yes, a fantastic question. So let me give you from a customer point outside in. If you are a founder, all in all, for a small business, and you have 50, 100 employees, and you need, you already are Airtel customer, and you get broadband from us, you get mobility from us, and you are wanting to make sure that you're buying productivity software, collaboration software, accounting software, and make sure that everything is known in one single bill, one digital place to occur. We have a journey for you in our Airtel Tech Services. If you are a small mid-market company, digital native, cloud native, you have enough IT organization support inside, you just want to put your applications in cloud and try out stuff and run it yourself, we have a developer cloud fee. Very cheaper, just take this. If you are an enterprise customer who's 80% on public cloud, 20% you want to keep it in private cloud for making sure that your development test environment runs well, and you want to manage that cost that way, we have relationship with hyperscaler, we have a cloud management portal, we will give you that. That's a third customer journey. But if you're a very big enterprise company and you want to make sure that you host your whole application on a private cloud and have complete control over that environment, we have not only the data center, but also the private cloud with all the data localization requirements built in, right? If you're a big OTT player, big video edtech company, and you want an edge and a CDN to make sure that your applications run effectively, we have 120 edge data centers, on top of it our CDN, and pretty soon our edge cloud, to make that customer experience for your video experience to be seamless. We have that journey as well. I think these are the 5-6 journeys we want to build and stitch together.
Excellent. And one of the questions I get many times from a lot of CIOs is the complexity at moving their licenses. This entire term of BYOL, while it sounds really fancy and easy, but it's anything but that, right? Now, I know you have a relationship with Oracle, and you're also their customer, so it's a mutually beneficial relationship from that perspective. But what is the level of preparedness at Airtel's end, or let's say, are you going to be handshaking with the likes of Oracle to probably work with the larger customers who already have a EULA with an Oracle or somebody else to sort of help them migrate their on-premise licenses to the cloud?
So you've seen that OCI runs on our data center. We have a big partnership with Oracle. We already run so many of Oracle applications, and we are moving our own Oracle applications to OCI. Some of that workload will move to OCI, and that comes with the BYOL advantage we have. I think here, I want to make sure that we have our right to win ready before saying, if we have to approach a bank which is running a core banking application or a CRM, Fusion or a Siebel database, to go and say, look, I will take you from on-premise to cloud. It needs some managed services consulting capability. It is not about the bring your own license, because the Oracle salesperson should get confidence that Airtel is the right partner for his or her customer to move. And the customer should get confidence that I can trust Oracle to move and manage it. I think there is a step we need to do where to build that capability before I claim that right to win. And I think that's what we're going to build.
Okay, interesting. And my last question, and I'll let you go after this. One of the feedback we get continuously from CIOs is the lack of reference architectures and frameworks that is very critical when they're planning a migration or, let's say, manageability. Because what happens is they don't probably have the in-house expertise or the wherewithal or the time or the bandwidth to probably do it all grounds up. So does Airtel already have, let's say, these reference architectures and frameworks that it helps or sort of provides to clients, or is it all sort of managed on a case-to-case basis?
What we want to bank on, that the short answer is we are developing those reference architecture, but what we are banking on is our own environment today. If you look at Airtel's environment today, we have 40,000 VMs running on our environment. Which is bigger than a couple of banks put together.
True.
We have not only a cloud environment which is fully private cloud with various different virtualization engines running, various different hardware underneath. We also have our multiple hybrid scalers, and we have our own CDN architecture. We have our own edge cloud architecture. So our goal is to leverage a lot of that to take it to customers as well. But I also recognize the fact that I can't take that to all of my customers unless I have smart people in the front end taking it. We need a managed services capability which we need to build. Before I approach the CIO like Pradeep in another big company, say, look, I could tell you how to do cloud. I don't think we are there yet, but we'll be there in a year.
Okay, wonderful. So that sort of really sums it up really well. So Ganesh, once again, thank you so much for your time. This has been a wonderful conversation. I truly appreciate your candor, your honesty. What I really loved about our conversation was there are things that are still work in progress, and you were very upfront and honest about it. So I truly appreciate your candor. So really, thanks a lot.
Thanks. We are excited on this journey. I think the future is truly a hybrid cloud model. And with what strengths we bring, data center and connectivity, if we could build some of these capabilities, which I mentioned, and build truly this African village you talked about, bring the partners together, I think we can offer a lot of value to our customers, and that should be our aim to do this in the cloud business.
I wish you the very best, Ganesh. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot again, and have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Thanks.